Welcome to Positive Perspectives, a podcast dedicated to sharing powerful stories that present opportunities for growth from real lived experiences. Each of our expert guests brings their own lived experiences with meaningful lessons or something that might spark your imagination that can be transforming and give some sort of deeper meaning or understanding. I'm joined today by Janice. Janice is a Brighton-based career development, leadership and development coach, and she's passionate about supporting others to thrive. She's also got a business called Blue Sky Career Consulting. Hi, Janice. How are you?
Hi there, Marie. I'm delighted to be here, actually. So thank you. Yes, I'm very well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to have you here with us today. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and maybe a bit about the story as well?
Yeah, as you said, I'm a career and leadership development coach working with leaders and aspiring leaders who might be looking for fresh direction or fresh perspective. So they'd find someone like me to help them gain some clarity about where they want to go or how they can best show up as an authentic leader. So that's what I've been doing for a number of years now. And yeah, as you said, I'm based down in Brighton, just love being by the sea. Yeah.
Great by being by the sea, all that nature and walking on the beach, especially in this
Yes.
weather.
Yeah. Although you can sometimes take it a bit for granted and perhaps not do as much walking by the beach as you
Yes,
could do, but hey ho.
brilliant. And tell us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing today.
Yeah, of course. Yes. What I've written is a collection of stories called Thin Sandwich, and these are set in the 80s. And they're about the coming of age of a young woman, young black working class woman called Victoria Jean. And we first meet her while she's studying for her A levels. And she's battling a few things. So, because she wants to leave home so she can escape the racism of life in the village and the tensions of life at home. And so, what I've done is created these stories. They're written in first person, and they are a collection inspired by my lived experience as an undergraduate engineer in the 80s.
Brilliant. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So that's very reflective stories that you're presenting
Yeah,
today.
absolutely. Yeah. They're going back
Great.
to a time 40 odd years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really inspiring for our listeners to hear that. And also, there's always lessons to be learned. Doesn't matter how long ago it might be.
Yeah. And this particular story has stuck in my memory, particularly. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Be great for you to share your story with us.
It's entitled Knife on a Bus. With my head resting against the window, I close my eyes and make myself comfortable for the hour-long bus journey. At 7:30 on a Saturday evening, I'm sitting halfway along the top deck as we pass through All Hallows on the Grain Road to High Halstow. I barely notice the hedgerows, drainage ditches, trees, and rutted fields, all things you normally associate with living in the country. Scenery I've seen countless times before on my way to college. It is only when I hear footsteps on the stairwell at High Halstow that I bother to turn my head and watch with mild interest as a teenage boy clambers up the stairs. Assuming he will pass by, I turn back to the window. Where are you going then? He plonks himself down in the seat in front of me. I give him a hard stare. Sorry? Who is this fool and why is he sitting directly in front of me when the rest of the top deck is empty? Where are you going all dressed up? Enjoying a yellow phase, I am wearing a pair of yellow baggy jeans, a yellow shirt, and burgundy shoes. My face is made up. Lipstick, eyeshadow, mascara, and a dusting of blusher to accentuate my cheeks. My afro is pinned on the sides. I stand out. No matter, with two weekend jobs, I can afford to dress as I please. Resisting the urge to roll my eyes, I answer, friends. I look closer at this person and judge that he's probably a year or two younger than me. I turn back to the window. What friends? I drag my head back. He is grinning at me and does not seem at all put out by my lack of engagement. I decide to adopt a polite one-word policy. College, I tell him. He cannot be seriously trying to chat me up. You look nice, he says. Thanks. What's your name then? BJ, I tell him. That's not a proper name. I shrug and turn back to the window. I'm Colin, he tells me. Do you want to know where I'm going? No, I say. Who? He tells me regardless. I let out a sigh of relief. Who is only another 10 minutes away? Though my relief is short-lived when he suddenly stands and walks around to sit next to me. What do you think? He nudges me, and I absently brush his elbow away, my gaze fixed on the window. He nudges me a second time, and I look down to see he has a knife in his hand. It's a Stanley knife, its short triangular blade more generally used for cutting lino. I have seen one before, but never on the top deck of a bus. My eyes travel up from the knife to his face. Very nice. I drop my one-word policy. He smiles at me. You can hold it if you like. Thank you, I tell him as he places it on my palm. I rub my thumb over the wonky X scratched onto the metallic grey handle. What's this? I ask. X marks the spot, he tells me. For what? He shrugs. Dunno, something. I lean against the window. The knife is in my left hand, with my buttock resting on top as far away from him as I can manage. Better that I'm the one holding it, especially as I would have to clamber over him to get away. Then, oddly, we sit in silence for the next 5 minutes, my companion and I. He seems cheerful enough and does not say anything else. Though my heart is hammering against my chest, I still have the knife. When the bus finally stops at Who, he holds out his hand for it, and I drop it onto his palm. His fingers close around the grey handle with a cheery, "Bye, yellow lady," and he bounds down the stairs. And I find myself waving to him as the bus pulls away. But my God, I need to get the hell out of here. Thank you.
That was very thought-provoking, shocking in places,
Hmm.
and very descriptive. I love the way you describe the surroundings, the color. I'm slightly speechless because I'm sure you were when you were presented with a Stanley knife.
Yeah, actually, it's one. I mean, obviously, I've created a story, but this essentially happened to me out to meet some friends. And yeah, suddenly out of the blue, this knife appears from nowhere. Um, and it's just got me thinking about the world we live in today, I guess, as women and how you have to navigate, um, I guess, some unwanted male attention. And, because she was clearly not interested in talking to this person.
Yes.
And I've always wondered, was I not showing him enough respect, enough attention? Is that why? How much worse could this situation have become?
Yes, because the actions and the actual body language were totally different. It was very chatty and
Mm,
talkative and happy.
mm,
But then the shock was when he brought out a Stanley knife. And that's quite confusing because you're not sure whether there is a real threat here
yeah,
or what's going on. And I suppose, in terms of being vulnerable in public spaces, we have to really consider what's going on. We have to have like 10 senses out, really.
yeah, yeah. You've got to weigh your actions and your behavior and your responses carefully to
Yeah.
keep yourself as safe as you possibly can.
Because also you don't know what might trigger this
No.
person. What kind of things were going through your head?
I might have gone a little bit blank actually with
Mm.
panic,
Yeah,
perhaps, and just thinking, I can't quite believe this is happening.
yeah,
Maybe partly relieved that I had the knife, actually, because you're right, there is a dissonance between the chattiness of his tone and then this appearance of this knife. How do I keep myself safe? And how do I keep, like you were saying, I don't want to trigger any further action here. Yeah.
yes. By you feeling the fear, that
Mm,
might have, transferred.
mm,
They feel the fear, and then they respond or react. The situation escalates into something that it doesn't need to be.
mm.
So your calm monotone seemed quite interesting, and your sort of dismissive attitude seemed a really good way to actually disperse anything that might happen there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it made a difference that he was younger and I I don't know, maybe I didn't feel quite as threatened because it was a
Yeah.
Stanley knife, maybe because it still can do you damage, but I
Yes.
don't know. It was just, I just remember it all being a bit of a blur, but it might be the fact that he was younger that I do
Yes.
remember. And
Yes.
we're talking about, yeah, I don't want to minimize this. It was a Stanley knife rather than a sheath knife or anything else.
Yes.
Maybe that helped me to stay a bit calmer in that moment. Actually, I was kind of weighing up those things as well, I think.
What kind of key messages would you like to leave our listeners about your story?
I think it's helpful to remind yourself of those stories from your past where you've had to think quickly, assess a situation, and then act accordingly. I guess that's one of the things I would take away from that particular story.
And I suppose there is that calm that was about you at that time, even
Mm,
though the situation wasn't a very calming situation.
mm.
You had a bit of a calm that helped keep a lid on it. Was that maybe about your intuition?
Most likely, I think I'm naturally an introvert. So while I'm kind of processing that, I'm
Yes,
just keeping myself as still as possible and maybe
yes,
trying to make myself less of a target, maybe. Because in another situation, my intuition may well have saying, right, you need to move and get out quickly.
yeah. That's interesting because every single situation has its own responses. Every single situation is individual.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Janice. That was a very inspiring
Oh, thank
story.
you.
One of the most kind of thought-provoking stories I think we've had so far.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sure
you.
there's going to be more. And thank you so much for sharing.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for inviting me. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Marie.
Oh,